Hello. Welcome. It's a bit of a hectic day with the elevators and multiple events in the building, but we're so glad that you were able to join us today. My name is Edward Einhorn. I'm the artistic director of the Rehearsal for Truth International Theater Festival honoring Vaclav Havel. So this is an unusual event. Because we are collaborating with the Society for the History of Czechoslovak Jews, and we're very excited to do so. But that means there's a little bit of a hybrid event happening here. So what's going to happen is we're going to start with a little bit of a lecture, and then we are going to have, that'll be about 10-15 minutes, and then we're going to have the play, Hitler's President. And probably not before we have to come to the end. I know there's events going on, so we may have a little bit of lead, but hopefully not too bad before that. Also want to mention that you are all invited to join the concert upstairs, because we will be done by then. Just wanted to, there's a visual artist will have a gallery opening downstairs, and there's a concert related to that the Czech Center is hosting. So it's all very exciting. Maybe we'll get the elevators fixed by then. I can't say. Let me say something quickly about events to come. So for the festival, we have one more reading, which is on this Monday. It's called Vanya 2026, and it includes 5 new plays written about the character Ferdinand Vanya, which was Havel's signature character. It's the first time we've done something like this with the festival, where we commission new plays. These are all playwrights who have worked with us in the past, from Belarus, Czechia, Lithuania, Romania, and the US. And so we'd love to have you come join on Monday. On June 8th, there is going to be a fundraiser with pieces from Cabaret in Captivity, which is our piece using real cabaret written in terrorism. Also at that fundraiser is going to be the clown, Furioso, who was in our festival last year, and some Hungarian dance, and some Slovak folk music, and some food and drink. So we really would love to have you join us there. And then the main festival is going to be June 16th to 27th. There's just too many events to go through here, but I would love for you to join and go to rehearsalfortruth.org for more details. For the Society for the History of Czechoslovak Jews, there is 2 lectures coming up about the Golem. There was already one held that you can find out online, but in the fall there'll be 2 more, and I'm excited to see those. And I want to introduce our guest. So Madeline Vadkerty was originally from Washington, D.C., and she's now residing in Bratislava, Slovakia. She's the author of Your Honor, Mr. President, Letters to Jozef Tiso, which was written in Slovak, and it's currently in its 3rd printing. On February 27, 2027, Purdue University Press will publish her new book entitled Writing for the Lives, Ordinary People Petition Slovak President Jozef Tiso During the Holocaust. Both publications offer the historical context for the desperate pleas for mercy that Jews penned to Slovak President Jozef Tiso during World War II. Vadkerty received her doctorate at Graz College in Holocaust and Genocide Studies in 2025, as the author of numerous articles about Slovakia's responsibility for the persecution and deportation of Jews. She makes presentations to student and public audiences throughout Slovakia and other countries. She teaches courses at Comenius University, the Bratislava International School of the Liberal Arts, and the Higher School of Musical Education in Bratislava. Her research into letters to Tiso and the tragic fates of the authors inspired the theater play Hitler's President that you're about to see. A former employee of the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, Vadkerty's mission is to expose audiences to the events that shaped the Holocaust in Slovakia and bring information out of the archives and into public awareness. And did someone just tell me you got another degree, or?
No, just the doctorate.
Just the doctorate. Great. Well, congratulations on that. And if you could all welcome Madeline to.
As you know, he's the artistic director of the Rehearsal for Truth International Theater Festival of the Vaclav Havel Center. And I also would like to thank Harrigan. He's a playwright and essayist who is the director of the performance you're going to be seeing the script reading tonight. I'd also like to thank all of the actors and others who worked on the performance. I think you'll find it, I was watching rehearsals, I think you'll find it to be very powerful. And I'd like to state some special thanks to L'uba Lesná, who's the playwright for Hitler's President, and Julia Sherwood, who translated this play so that you could hear it in English. I feel them both standing here with me this evening. My job is, within all of this process, was to provide the research for the play. And I have a total of 15 minutes or so to give you the historical background, so I think we'll just get to it. The Holocaust in Slovakia was unique for a number of reasons. It was the only unoccupied country to deport its Jewish population. They did it under their own auspices. The state claimed that the persecution of Jews was in alignment with Christian teachings. The Slovak state paid 500 Reichsmarks for every deported Jew, plus train fare for quote-unquote resettlement costs. And for me, the most fascinating thing, and the thing that has drawn me to this history very deeply, is the fact that Jozef Tiso was a Roman Catholic priest. The state itself was not necessarily created out of an organic movement to found a new country, to establish a country, but rather the result of the Nazis' geopolitical designs in the region. The population of Slovakia during World War II was 1.5 million. The Jewish population represented 3.6%. That was about 90,000 Jewish people. And people often ask me, what are the origins of anti-Semitism in Slovakia? And anti-Semitism there took many forms. There's the classical Christian argument that the Jews were guilty of deicide, killing Jesus. There's the economic argument that Jews took advantage of Slovaks to acquire their wealth, and that they had profited unfairly. There was a national argument that Jews are not real Slovaks, they're not capable of national feeling, and in fact they're Hungarian agents or communists. So I should also just mention there were two waves of deportations of Jews from Slovakia. The first wave was from March 15th to October 20th, 1942. And then after the Slovak national uprising in 1944 and 45, there was another wave. The first wave of deportations was nearly 58,000 people. The second wave was roughly 13,500 people. And if there's one thing I don't like hearing from historians, it's statistics and numbers and dates. But I actually find them to be, the more I study this history, the more I find them to be significant, and I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't mention those numbers. And especially for me, because in my work I try to focus on individual people and individual lives and not on these large statistical numbers. Okay, that's a little bit of background information. On April 7th, 1944, 2 Slovak Jewish men escaped from Auschwitz. Their names were Rudolf Ropa and Alfred Wetzler. They made a daring escape from Auschwitz, and you'll be meeting them both during the course of this play. Ropa and Wetzler had spent 2 years in Auschwitz, and they wanted the world to know what was happening there. They hoped that if the Western Allies learned about the atrocities taking place, that something could be done to save the last Hungarian Jews who were slated for deportation. And I don't want to tell you too much more, but they hoped to save roughly 200,000 Jews. And sometimes their testimony is known as the Verbo-Wetzler Report. Sometimes it's known as the Auschwitz Protocol. It was a 25-page document that was prepared after the 2 men escaped. But that's another lecture for another time, but they are an important part of the story. Other people who you will meet during the performance this evening are people, ordinary people, who wrote letters to Jozef Tiso about the so-called Jewish question. All kinds of people wrote to Tiso for all kinds of reasons. Jews were begging for mercy in their plight from anti-Semitic persecution. There were non-Jewish people who were writing because they wanted Jewish property, or they were angry when they didn't get it. There were Jews who wrote asking for the return of confiscated property, or to be allowed to remain in their homes. There were non-Jews who wanted to remain employed or who were in love with Jews and wanted to marry them. Priests also wrote to Tiso. Some wrote kindly about Jews, others did not. And for me, the most important thing is that these were real people with real destinies, and you'll be hearing excerpts of things that they wrote to him. So why did people write to him specifically? Who was he? And what were they hoping to get from him? Tiso was the most powerful person in Slovakia, in the Slovak state. He was president and prime minister, among other functions. As I mentioned earlier, he was a Roman Catholic priest. And there is a piece of legislation that will be mentioned during the play called the Jewish Codex, a 270-paragraph anti-Semitic decree. And paragraph 255 of this decree gave Tiso the power to grant exemptions. This decree was very, very harsh. It basically gathered together all previous anti-Jewish norms and added some new ones. And it caused this exemption loophole in the document, caused an avalanche of letters. And most of the letters you'll be hearing were written in response to the Jewish code, and it's the vast majority of the letters that I research when I'm in the archives. The question of these exemptions is a hot topic. It's a controversial topic. It's very sensitive. Some people inflate the numbers. Others say that Tiso's hands were tied by the Nazis. And excuse me, basically there were very few exemptions, and the people who received them fall into specific categories. 90% of the people who received the exemptions were converts to Christianity. The recipients tended to be men who were about 40 years old. The reason why they were men is that men were the ones who wrote on behalf of their families. But they had property or large businesses. Ultimately, Slovakia, as I said, they deported 58,000 Jews in Slovakia on its own initiative. As was already said, it's very important for me to remember ordinary people and their suffering. So sorry. And to honor them, to bring the research out of the archive and into awareness, to bring new information into the controversy surrounding Tiso, and add another layer to the debate about him and his responsibility. And I would say that the youngest letter writer I've encountered so far was 6. So sorry. And the vast majority perished, as just did my voice. Okay, that's enough for now.
Still here? What happened to Father Havel?
He didn't take me into his convent.
Spare me your inane comments.
Just trying to understand why you don't see the Jews as human beings.
I'm afraid you're a little rather slow-witted.
Well, that well may be. There's a great deal that I do not understand. The more I've seen, the more I believe that I will never understand anything. Presumably your mother told you who brought you into this world?
The Almighty.
No, I mean the obstetrician at your birth.
And you know who that was?
He was called because your mother had been in labor for too long. The midwife could no longer cope. It was October, it was pouring with rain, and the doctor was exhausted after a long day. He did not feel like going to her, but he reckoned he had to, as it was his duty after all, and it worked out well in the end. He didn't get back home until 7 in the morning. It was still raining.
Oh, so now the rain's my fault.
The doctor was Jewish.
There was no one else at hand.
That's right. There was.
What is it that you want from me?
He told me he would feel guilty for the rest of his life for helping to bring into the world a man who fears directly responsibility for ending tens of thousands of human lives. In May 1940, he received a letter that banned him from practicing medicine. In 1942, he ended up in the Novoski labor camp. I don't know what the people who put him there were thinking. He was 82 years old.
My mother asked me to help him, so I ordered his release.
So you did. And he was left alone. But others weren't, and he remained forever haunted by the thought of those who've been hauled off instead of him.
But I did help him.
It depends on how you look at it.
I helped him, admit it!
Yes. And you also helped the King of the Jews.
I only know one King of the Jews, that is Jesus of Nazareth.
Try to remember, you're Tony. Your protege, Tony Vaclav. He was in charge of the transports. He proved extremely successful in terms of his brutality.
No, he did an excellent job organizing the transports. He met the quota 110%. There was no one better than him. But in other respects, it was difficult. And that's why he was fired.
The Jewish community paid him 100,000 Slovak crowns each month to hold the transports.
Do you think the Jews missed that money?
So it was all right for him to rip them off?
Even if he did, he only took from the Jews what they had stolen from the Slovaks in the past. They've been making beggars of our people for centuries. And besides, Tony did not have the authority to halt the deportations.
And what about your daughter? Did he have authority over her?
Filthiest slander. How dare you!
What do you mind find more offensive? The rumors that you had a daughter, or that she married that fraudster? A pediferous.
Get out!
Nope, I'm not going anywhere.
It was the Interior Minister, Shanyao Mak, who made the Vashik director of Department 14.
I met a man named Franz in the camp. He pulled every string to be received by Vaclav. He was very friendly, inquired about his family, his job. Franz was sure he would be safe. They said that he wasn't. The next morning, 2 guard members turned up at his apartment and hauled him off to the railway station. A cattle car crammed full of people was there waiting. And less than an hour later, he and the other Jews were on their way to Auschwitz.
I don't know who you are, but I'm getting really fed up with you. You annoy me. Show me at least some respect and get out. I am not interested in you or your Vashlet.
He was your Vashlet. Your man, your protege, your son-in-law. All right. Let's forget about the rumors. He was the husband of the daughter of a pharmacist you knew in Wales.
I helped him. I helped him because I thought he was a promising young man, ambitious and reliable. I've known the pharmacist's daughter since she was a baby. He was my protege. But because of that little girl. But then I learned that this person, my man, as you so referred to him, had been reporting to the SS intelligence service. He claimed that the Slovak authorities were issuing too many exemptions, hampering the deportations. Himmler threw it back in my face. He said I should sort out my officials, and that was the last thing I needed.
Yeah, least of all from your own son-in-law.
Lights down.
So, how is my dear little priest? How have you been?
I'm ready to serve Germany, mein Führer.
I knew I could rely on you. I knew that Slovakia would trust a priest and that you would trust me.
To us, you are our real father. And the Slovaks, as faithful children, give you their love like a garland of flowers that they've made for you.
What is it I'm hearing about Slovakia?
Slovakia is happy in your fatherly care. That is why we wish to show you our gratitude by making our modest contribution to building a new Europe. I personally vouch for the totally pro-German stance of the Slovak state.
But what about those leaflets circulating in Slovakia that sing the praises of Russia and promote pan-Slavist policy?
Mein Führer, that is just Jewish, Hungarian, and Czech skullduggery. They want to besmirch Slovakia in Germany's eyes. Slovakia will take up arms and join the fateful struggle of all of Europe for the salvation of justice and civilization. I assure you, the loyalty and allegiance of the Slovak people and their government. And it goes without saying of our unshakable faith in victory. Now may God bless our resolution.
Lights down. Lights up on Tiso's prison cell.
We can pretend that I'm Father Hilaire. What was it that you wanted to tell him?
I wanted us to pray together.
And you can't pray without him?
I also wanted to talk to him.
About your life? I'm interested in that too.
My personal life is of no consequence.
Oh, I agree. Just like to form a picture of you, as a human being, but you're escaping into the pose of an invincible leader.
I am a leader, and I have been.
Before turning to stone in the pose of a leader, you were a human being, right? Made of flesh and bone, somebody's son.
The son of a man. Butcher.
Your father was a butcher.
Yes, my father was a butcher. And my classmates used to poke fun of me for that. My teacher of religion, too. He was explaining something in class, and suddenly he turned to me. What does the butcher's son think about this? He was a vegetarian, I found out later.
Could your father weigh me? He has these huge scales, doesn't he?
Of course he does. He needs them for work.
I'm just afraid I would come out of the butcher's shop deboned.
The whole class roared with laughter. I was reduced to tears. And when I came home and told my father what had happened, he gave me a thrashing. He said I was a wimp and that I should ignore avoid that sort of talk. I couldn't ignore it.
Well, Hitler was a vegetarian too. You got on quite well with him.
What's that got to do with it?
It's not true. It's something Goebbels made up, okay? Propaganda that presented Hitler to the world as an ascetic, a vegetarian who doesn't drink and smoke and avoids relationships with women. But I'll count it as a lie. He was quite fond of Bavarian sausages. Bratwurst.
You know more than I do. I didn't pay any attention to what he ate.
I also heard that Goebbels referred to Slovakia as fascism of the good Lord. I mean, that's more to your taste, I understand.
You don't understand anything. Goebbels was a very smart man.
You once said that just like the Colorado beetle destroys the potato crop, the Jews destroy nations and people. There is only one solution. We have to deal with this danger in a radical manner.
My people meant more to me than the Jews. The Jews' arrogance had to be answered in the form of harsher treatment. They had been demoralizing our people and sowing disunity among them for centuries.
My father would have been pleased with you, not just because you became a priest, but you're as cold-hearted as a butcher.
Leave my father out of this. Who is your father to judge me like that?
A worker.
A socialist? So who are you? Who sent you? The communists?
Lights down. Lights up.
Don't you remember me?
I don't know you.
I've been the Lutheran priest in Slatina since 1928.
You know how many priests I've met in my life?
In spring 1940, you celebrated Mass. You were already president then. I came with my wife, Bohemian. You greeted me warmly and then went off to gather the children for their first communion. When you appeared at the church entrance, you were surrounded by dozens of children.
I remember. But I've always been a priest, first and foremost, and I still am.
Once all the children and adults were inside, you went in the church with your dignified gait. You seemed to be floating on air. After Mass, you patiently stood by the parish gate while people handed you their pleas and on pieces of paper and put them in your pocket. My wife and I, we stood outside the church watching you. We were fascinated by you. You exuded a natural kindness, while at the same time there was something otherworldly about you.
Thank you. That's very nice of you.
Anyone who has a complaint or is in trouble can share it here directly with the head of state. You said it as if you weren't speaking of yourself, as if you spoke of another person who also commanded your respect. My wife and I thought that despite all our reservations we had about you being elected, you would make a good president.
I had taken on the presidential office only because I resolved to support my nation in its manly and tenacious struggle as demanded by my obligation to the Slovak nation and the holy memory of President, Prince of Nitra.
Bohemian and I were opposed to the formation of the Slovak state. It was a fascist satellite of Hitler's Germany right from the
The
start.
situation was very, very complex. I was forced to accept the lesser evil. You know the saying, when grown-ups fight, the children should hide under the table.
I don't want to judge you. I can't imagine the pressure you were under, the responsibility for all the people of Slovakia you must have felt.
I am a priest, but the nation entrusted me with the task of leading the state.
Bohemian and I have never made a secret of our views.
Quite right. But admiration for the president is not something to be kept secret.
Admiration. For you?
You just admitted it.
No.
Oh,
I have.
come on. You just told me how fascinated you and your wife were as you watched me.
Yes, well, we were fascinated by what we saw. As early as 1941, I had learned from Slovak soldiers that Wehrmacht and SS were brutally murdering the Jews. I said to you, Pray, as a military priest, I saw photos of the Jewish massacre, pictures of the mass grave, bodies of men, women, and children piled on top of each other, just nameless heap of bodies.
When the adults fight, the children should hide under the table.
Those photographs haunted me. I couldn't forget the horrors I'd seen. When the transports began, local Jews came to see me asking for help. I entered their names in the register of births as Lutherans. My predecessor wasn't a stickler for detail and was very careless. He left quite a few gaps, blank spaces without official information. I used those blanks to enter the names of Jews who asked me for help. I backdated these entries, and then I issued them with baptism certificates.
That's forgery of official documents.
I was able to save the lives of only 100 Jews. I never took a penny. Even though rumors went around that I was taking huge bribes, how could I? Those people who asked me for help, they had nothing. They couldn't even afford to buy food.
How do I know you're not lying? You were helping the Jews, you forged documents. Why would you do it for free?
Neither me nor my wife own anything, except for children, of course,
Children are our greatest wealth.
and true love of thy neighbor.
Those people are human beings. They want us to see them as animals. Your conscience will tell you what to do, and I will support you before God and the people.
God is our support, and your conscience.
Your God must be dead.
There is only one God, and do not blaspheme. Your church ought to expel you for that kind of talk.
I hope your church will remember you as a criminal.
You are even worse than the Jews who've been coming in here to see me.
Coming from you, that's almost a compliment.
Lights down. Lights up.
I've had enough. What do you want? This is not a place where you can just walk in whenever you like. This is a death cell.
Mr. President, please excuse me, but
You know, I don't have time for you. I only have one day left, and I will not let another weepy Jewess ruin it.
I am not a Jewess.
What is it you want from me?
Leopold Grunhut's patisserie. I submitted my application back in the summer of 1940. It should belong to me.
Why?
It's the biggest patisserie in Bratislava. Postula Street number 2, you might know it. They make the best walnut caramel wafers. The ones I make are delicious, maybe even better than Grunhut's.
I don't like caramel wafers. They're too sweet.
What about chestnut puree? Or vanilla slices? Please forgive me, Mr. President, for being so bold and charging in here like this. I'm a widow, you see? You may remember my husband, Wojtek Lukoviny. He was mayor of Topolchany. For many years, Wojtek did an exemplary job for our people and the party. On your guard!
Well, in that case, I suppose we ought to grant your request.
Yes, you ought to. I need that shop very badly, as Slovakia needs its leader. On your guard! But it's been Aryanized by someone else. Some female by the name of Homolova. Unbelievable.
We'll find another shop then for you.
I've already found one. I implore you. I have dependent children. I have a trade license. After my husband passed away, I ran a patisserie for 11 years. But I had to give it up because of the Jewish pest. The horrible Jewish competition. It won't let decent people breathe.
We'll take care of you.
Thank you. You have my humblest gratitude. I am sure the greedy Aryanizer Homolova got it because she knows the right people. Even the clerk at the town hall was rude to me. I'm the only one who doesn't know anybody, so I'm forced to plead with you like this.
Don't worry, Maria. We will take care of you.
Will you take care of me too, Mr. President? I've been wronged as well, very badly. Tell them, Joe.
On your guard!
Get to
I kiss your hand, madam.
Don't you even dream of kissing her hand. She's a crafty right, because of those Jewish vermin ruining me.
Oh, they tried to ruin me too.
Well, they've ruined me more.
Me even more.
The swine.
Jewish swine.
The Jews are the
The
pestilence.
Jew is the enemy.
Death to the Jews.
Off to the camps with the Jews.
To the gas chambers with them.
Come on, ladies! What gas chambers? You know that no such thing exists.
But it should! I've never stopped fighting the Jew vermin, and I never will. Never! I'm a Slovak army volunteer, a Christian socialist, a guardist, a secretary of Linka Slovak People's Army, and a member of Linka Guard. So please, Your Honor, Mr. President, our saint, our good, kindest, dearest, the one and only Monsignor Tiso, please support my Julia's request to Aryanize this shop. But of course, you should also support the Aryanization of Mrs. Lukopny here because it was a different shop in a different place.
Go on, you wretched woman. Explain to Mr. President why. Why are you so hell-bent on laying hands on my shop?
It's not your shop yet.
She wants for her daughter. Her marriage hasn't worked out. On your guard.
You fishwife. You have to plan everything out.
Look, ladies, calm down. Show some judgment and courage. Now, we can't eat each other, then others will eat us up. You keep the patisserie that used to belong to Olga Feldovas, and we will find you another. There are quite a few shops here that the Jews have left, don't you worry.
I've already picked one. In Kozia Street. It used to belong to Moses Weinreich. It's not as big as Grudenboots, but it'll do.
That's how I like you, ladies. You see, we can come to an agreement. That's us Slovaks. We're good, kind, God's children, in all modesty.
Lights down. Lights up.
You again.
I would rather be someplace else too.
Tell me about it.
Your execution's in a few hours.
I'm not afraid. I have nothing to fear. My conscience is clear.
Well, the word clear conscience sounds strange coming from someone like you.
I have always acted in a way that was best for the well-being and the interests of my nation, to the best of my knowledge and belief.
Throughout your time in power, you divided the citizens into those who form the nation, i.e. the Slovaks, and those who are not part of it and therefore don't even deserve to be citizens. That is the Jews. What's dividing up people have to do with the love of God?
Will you crucify Jesus Christ?
To shave such silly talk for village folk.
Are you making fun of Slovaks?
You know full well what I'm talking about. You're a modern man, talk of Jews who drink children's blood and put it into matzah. That sort of guff is not worthy of you. The devil in the shtetl, the evil personified.
I have always and steadfastly opposed evil and have only given in when the nation was threatened by a greater evil.
The Jews were citizens of the Slovak Republic too. And you were also president of the Jews living in Slovakia. They ended up in camps.
Jews. You keep going on about the Jews. Arrogant, selfish, rich, and self-important. Your arrogance demanded a response. You had demolished our nation, set man against fellow man. My nation matters more to me than the Jews.
Have you ever wondered what happened to those who were deported?
I had nothing to do with those that were deported. They went on all the time in those days, and nothing out of the ordinary happened in those camps. Have you seen the wonderful film about Threshnerstadt? The happy people? Well dressed. There's seamstresses, blacksmiths, potters, gardeners, even a sculptor. They played soccer.
An exemplary ghetto. The Führer's gift to the Jews. Oh, they even staged Wunderbar, a children's opera, right? Except that every week, the young singers were dragged off to the gas chambers. You received reports from neutral countries. The Slovak mission in Switzerland sent you surveys of the press. You were aware of Hitler's anti-Jewish operations.
I had other things to worry about. We were finally able to build our own state. Do you know how much work that entails?
You made this new state unacceptable not just for the Jews, but for all decent people.
Who are you, the arbiter of decency? The conscience of the silent majority? Well, what a pity that it keeps silent, leaving us to argue about what is really and what believes.
And that suits people like you just fine. Huh? You were informed of what the Germans were doing to the Jews even before the deportations from the country began. Following the Nazi occupation of Ukraine, the SS publicly hanged 2 Jews in Zhytomyr. This was followed by an execution of more than 400 Jews. The Slovak contingent there saw it. You visited Ukraine in 1941 on All Saints Day. Didn't the soldiers tell you what they had witnessed? And even if they didn't, General Tunanich and Minister Katlov informed you of mass murders of Jews committed by the Nazis in Ukraine. Both of these men confirmed that in their testimony during your trial.
They were both lying to save their own skins. My experience of the Germans, of the Fuhrer, was different. The Fuhrer was a very kind man. He told me, the Slovak people trust you because you're a priest. And you trust me. The two of us can make a deal.
Precisely. You made a deal with him.
To us, Hitler was the father figure of this great family of nations, which we were among the first to join. The Fuhrer understood us on a human level.
You received a report on Auschwitz written by 2 Slovak Jews who managed to escape from there.
How do you know that this report is genuine?
I know.
Yes, but how do you know?
Because I'm the one who wrote it.
Who are you?
Fred Vetson. I wrote it together with Rudo Verba. I can see you've heard his name before, too.
No, never.
You're only hours away from death. What is the point of lying?
I know nothing about a report. I had more important things to deal with. You have some cheek to come in here and talk to me about that. Why don't you leave me alone?
The state prosecutor presented a copy of our report at the court. It was found in your secret archive. It was marked Act Acta. File and forget. In your own hand.
You're lying.
Before your own signature. Letters from people who asked for your help were also found. They asked to be exempted from the Jewish laws and decrees so they wouldn't end up in the camel cars. Those letters, too, you marked with the 2 words that meant death. Ad acta. Ad acta.
We gave each request appropriate consideration.
And you turned down almost all of them. And your signature is also on the copy of our report.
My signature could have gotten on
Stop! Almost no one believed our report. We described such horrendous atrocities that those who haven't been to the camps cannot even imagine.
It was our obligation to protect our own people from the enemy. The Jews. The pestilence. They had to be concentrated in one place so that we could defend ourselves.
Concentrated in concentration camps. Industrial factories of death.
IG Farben, Siemens, BMW,
Kodak,
Auto Union,
Dehuma.
or Daimler. We were not producing death.
Oh, do you think so? Dehuma. Deutsche Maschinenwerkstatt. The daughter company of the German IBW that designed and provided the Nazis with the technology needed to automate the extermination of people. 2,000 machines for making punch cards. Great! They helped the Jews to be identified and exterminated.
I had other things to worry about. I had other things to worry about!
Factories of death with everything that entails. In Auschwitz, where I was, the guards were interested in the death of a prisoner only as long as it increased the number of those killed, a measurable indicator. Productivity was measured by the number of people exterminated, because death was the product, in a word, a death factory.
History is full of murders and problems.
I know that this is hard to understand. I hadn't been there, I wouldn't have believed it either. I wouldn't be able to understand that a human being can see and take part in mass extermination of other human beings. That life can cease to be valuable. That instead, death becomes a commodity. This was industrialized death. No pogrom in history can compete with
It's
that.
out of the question that such a thing could have existed, that the Fuhrer had such a thing built. I will never forget my first meeting with the Fuhrer. I had come with this idea to him, and this idea of him in my head. But the first impression surpassed everything. His personal charisma had everyone under his spell. There is nothing artificial or forced about him. Everything is clear and straightforward. Hitler made a great impression on me as a human being.
Not only on you.
Yes, I, a butcher's son from tiny Slovakia, was received by the most powerful man in Europe. Do you know what that meant to me?
You still haven't explained why you marked a report on mass murders ad acta. You, a Catholic priest.
The Jews themselves sent me messages imploring me to persevere because they felt safe only as long as I was in office. They wanted me to keep going until God's will and the will of the people took this burden from my shoulders.
Lights down. Lights up on Irena Schwartz.
Your Honor, Mr. President, I, the undersigned, Irena Schwartzova, resident in Bratislava, 22 Panenska Street, first floor, implore you most respectfully to be exempted from the provisions of Decree I-198-41. I'm taking the liberty to turn to you with my respectful plea in the hope that you will hear my sincere words spoken from the heart. I am not seeking to salvage any property or livelihood. I am completely impecunious, being the daughter of poor parents. The aim of this plea is solely to be treated as the equal of my fellow citizens, for I suffer deeply and tragically every ignominy and humiliation I have been subjected to. As someone whose soul has been filled with the spirit of Slovakness and Christianity since an early age, I am especially pained by being stigmatized in this way. I have always lived in the fortunate awareness of my native land being just as precious and irreplaceable to me as my own mother. I love every inch of my fatherland with all my heart, and it pains me to receive humiliation in return for my devotion and zeal. To prove that the Christian and Slovak spirit has always prevailed in my family, allow me to point out that my younger sister has married a Slovak, a Christian, that my father's brother, now deceased, had been baptized long before the Great War and married a Christian woman, and that my entire family is these days an exemplar of what a Christian family should be. I further attest my Christian attitude to my neighbors through my deeds and my readiness to come to the assistance of those in need. I dare claim, boldly and proudly, that I have lived an honest life. I implore you, Your Honor, Mr. President, to hear my impassioned plea, which I am taking the liberty of making in this way in address to the father of my native land, which I love from the bottom of my heart, and I beg you to direct your just thoughts and deeds toward granting me the happiness for which I so unjustly suffering. With advance expressions of heartfelt gratitude, I pledge to cherish and value your just decision for the rest of my life, and to raise faithful and politically conscious children for the fatherland. In Bratislava, October 11, 1941, with the deepest respect, Irena Schwartzova.
Lights down. Lights up.
As a German speaker, I was assigned the job of registrar at Auschwitz. My job was to record the transports as they arrived. I was lucky. To be a registrar was a privilege. I was spared hard thousands of murder victims. People murdered at work, on the upper plots, in the gas chambers. They included my own brother, who was a member of the Summer Commando. They picked him because he was very, very fit. Do you know what the Summer Commando was?
I'm not an idiot. I speak German. I studied in Vienna.
Well, that may well be, but aber weines nicht ausschließen. So the commando took the dirtiest work in the camp. They collected the corpses and threw them into the ovens in the crematorium. And then the SS they killed the members of the Summer Commando. They witnessed the atrocities committed by the SS. My mother Dreiser was in the Summer Commando, as was Philip Mueller. Childhood film. Childhood. Did we ever really have that?
There you go. They were capable of the most worst atrocities. You said so yourself. So what gives you the right to put all the blame on the German Reich? Or on me? I wasn't clearing away the corpses.
You produced them. You were the one who made them carry away those emaciated dead bodies, those skeletons just covered in skin. And throw them into pits and ovens. You're the one who made them go there. You hauled them off to places where death took every imaginable shape except for one. Dignity.
Death is never dignified. Tomorrow I will be hanged, and I am certain to wet myself, perhaps even soil myself. The body is a base thing.
Only the soul. The soul is eternal. And you will be a martyr. If I were a Catholic, I would say you burn in hell.
I didn't know what was happening in the camps, and I didn't care.
You should have done! That was your sacred duty!
Don't you dare talk to me about sacred duty. I'm the priest here. That's
Just bounce off of you like a glass wall, don't they? And not only you, I never thought that the world would ignore our report. Everything, not just Rudo and I. There was a resistance cell at the camp. They collected all the information. The one who helped us most was Philip Mueller. He was the one who gave me the detailed drawings of the crematorium drawn on parchment. Also a list of names and a number of the people gasped, human beings. And at the time, we didn't feel like human beings at all. That was an art our allies brought to perfection. Philip pulled off the label for one of the cans of Zyklon B. He unglued parts of the label and wrote on the other part. He copied the contents of the can, the place of origin, the name of the producer. We put the rolled up sketches and the label into a metal tube and buried in a place known only to a few of us. We dug it out one day before our escape. We couldn't risk it being found by the guards. Philip also listed the names of all the SS men who worked in the crematorium, the transports he worked on, their dates of arrival and places of departure. That is how we collected the material for our report on what went on in the camp.
the same Philip Mueller who incinerated the corpses.
Oh, the invention of the gas chambers was truly diabolical. The Jews, they were brought into a room where the guards told them they would be taking a bath. The SS made sure that people didn't start panicking, save themselves the extra work of dealing with a crowd of people condemned to die. Once inside, the people were told to undress, and no doubt they were going to really take a shower. Each person was given a towel and a piece of soap. The two men dressed in white overalls would be pushed into the gas chamber. 2,000 people at the same time. They had to stand upright, squeezed one next to the other. Every now and then the guards would fire shots into the air to make those who had already entered move farther in and make room for yet more to enter. And the heavy doors were slammed shut. The SS men put on gas masks, or climbed onto the roof and poured in Zyklon B from cans through a small opening later, everybody in that shower would be dead.
Stop lying! Not a word of what you said could be true.
4 freight trains a day. 6,000 to 8,000 people every day. 3 chambers really did look like shower rooms. Except what they poured down instead of water were pellets of Zyklon B. They would turn into gas, poisoning everyone inside, and the people would be cremated, turned into ashes. The ovens would be cleaned, paired, and then the next consignment would be pushed in.
I can't listen to this anymore.
Do you know that it's extremely convenient to have a river next to a concentration camp?
I'm not listening.
Why not? You don't believe that it's true anyway?
Do you hear me? I am not listening. I can't hear you. I can't hear
The
you.
truth won't disappear if you hide. It will keep hanging over you even when you're hanged.
Don't talk to me about my execution. You of all people, you don't have the right.
Lights down. Lights up.
I was once contacted by the office of the president. They wanted to verify 2 birth certificates for Alicia Newman and her daughter Adela. I was the one who issued them, of course. So I replied and said they were genuine and that both of them had converted decades ago. I was proud of that fact. It helped my Jews to avoid being accused of being baptized only recently. They could live a little longer. The Jewish Codex. Terrible.
You forged official documents.
A codex straight from hell.
You're nothing but an ordinary fraudster.
And you're nothing but an ordinary murderer. A lackey, Hitler's president. You would be nothing on your own. Adela was Alicia's illegitimate daughter. Her father was a man named Jan Baron, a Catholic. In 1920, when Adela was due to be born, his entire family opposed him marrying a Jew. So he didn't marry her.
You see? Even before I became president, the citizens themselves knew that it was not a good idea to band together with the Jews.
In 1941, Jan Baron decided to adopt Adela so that the authorities would recognize her as his daughter, even though he wasn't married to the mother. But the authorities didn't allow it because he was a Catholic and his daughter was Jewish.
What's this got to do with me?
I baptized both women in order to save their lives, and so that the father could adopt his own daughter.
She's an adult.
Is that why she has to wear a Star of David? Is that why she has to be deported along with her mother? Adela wrote you a letter. She asked you for an exemption. You turned her down.
That wasn't me. That was my office. I couldn't read all those letters. I granted presidential exemptions to the Jews who asked me. I've granted many.
Yes, you did grant exemptions. But what does that prove? That during your time in office, your government adopted such inhumane legislation that you had to grant exemptions to your own citizens, to those you deemed worthy of not being trampled by your own laws. Wouldn't it have been easier just not to adopt the laws?
But I did help. I helped everyone who turned to me. And you won't find my signature under a Jewish codex.
Of course not. Your signature isn't there because it was a government decree, not a law. But you did sign all the anti-Jewish laws, including the ones on Aryanization and immigration.
I had to.
You did not.
It was unavoidable. It was the only way to ensure the survival of the Slovaks.
It was avoidable. But it suited you only too well. In your student days in Vienna, you'd seen pure, genuine anti-Semitism, and you liked it.
Don't you dare talk to me that way.
Until October 23rd, 1939, while you served as Prime Minister, you signed everything. And once you became president, you also signed everything. You had no problem with any anti-Semitic government decree.
No! No, I didn't. And if I were to start again, I would act in the same way.
Lights down.
were not interested in Japan, they said. And the opera promoted low army morale because Lieutenant Pinkerton, instead of meeting his military obligations as a naval officer, breaks women's hearts and is a bigamist. Anna was also upset that before each performance, they had to sing the national anthem. They Slovaks, our Slovak language is alive, as long as our loyal heart is beating for our country, the Slovak spirit is alive, and will live on forever. Such a crude song, even if it is the national anthem, she said. It's out of place on a stage of a theater.
It's our national anthem. And it's beautiful. And it's ours. The Slovak spirit is alive and will live forever.
I happened to know a man who sang this crude song really well. In his rendition, it sounded rather nice.
It's a beautiful song. Solemn, dignified. First and foremost, it's ours.
The man who sang it so well was called Julius Freund. And despite that, they wouldn't let him be in the choir singing the anthem. He was Jewish, you see.
Guess what we need? A Jew singing our national anthem.
What's wrong with that?
What's right about it?
Freund's fiancée, Albina, wrote you a letter. She implored you to let her and Freund get married. She was deaf and dumb. She wrote to you back in the fall of 1941.
I remember. I granted her an exception. Because why not let a deaf and dumb person marry? If someone will have her, even if she is a Jew.
No, she didn't get the exception. Exactly 1 year later, in September 1942, your office replied, your request has not been granted.
Well, what's the point of matrimony for someone who's deaf and dumb? Matrimony is only for healthy people.
Yes, that's exactly what you advocated publicly.
A country needs a healthy population. Both the bride and the groom should be elements of health, both physically and mentally. This is why we plan to open eugenic advisory centers all over Slovakia, in line with the motto, marriage is only for healthy people.
But why? Why can't everyone marry anyone they wish?
You're simplifying things.
Freund perished in the Soviet War concentration camp. I have no idea what happened to all of them. That evening we didn't go to the opera. We took a walk along the embankment instead. A young man came up to us and said very rudely that Jews are prohibited from entering public parks. We tried to explain that this was the Danube embankment, not a park, but to no avail. The man wasn't violent, but still, I found it outrageous. I returned home very annoyed. Well, and then I was told that I had to hand in my boa because Jews were not allowed to own furs. No fur rugs or coats, nothing made of fur, or sheepskin, or leather. And I was supposed to have handed it in 2 months earlier. So, I wrapped my boa in tissue paper, and I took it to the Linkagard District Command. I got home feeling rather depressed. My boa from Paris was no longer mine. What about my sensitive throat? Or rather, my vocal cords? I have to keep them warm all the time. And then I remembered, I had another boa in the wardrobe. It wasn't from Paris, and it wasn't made of Arctic fox. It was made of ostrich feathers, and it was a lurid yellow. It got dirty very easily. It wasn't made for daily wear. And it was really yellow, like the star I had. But now that they had confiscated my boa from Paris, I decided to wear it. And I wrote you a letter asking for the real boa to be returned to me.
Do you think a president has time to deal with boas? We're at war! Some people are very self-centered.
I did get a reply to the request I addressed to you, but it wasn't much help. I was told to speak to the Hlinka Guard in Bratislava. So I dropped the matter. What would the Hlinka Guard have done to help? And then I too had other things to worry about. I was hauled off to the camp, and I died.
Lights down.
One of the people for whom I issued a birth certificate was Martin, a 7-year-old boy. And his parents, Milan and Alžbeta, they came to see me all the way from Prešov, in the east of the country. They owned a camera shop there. They heard that I was saving Jews. I issued their baptism certificates in June 1941.
Keep going on about the same stuff. Fake baptisms, forged records, fraud upon fraud upon fraud.
Martin wrote you a letter. His father drew a lovely Slovak folk art pattern on it, and beneath it said in a child's handwriting, "Every night I pray for your good health. Mommy says if I'm a good boy, baby Jesus will bring me the most wonderful gift from our president. I'm starting school next year."
Is that what he wrote to me?
He was a smart boy. He could read and write before he started school. But he didn't go to school. You turned down his request.
That couldn't have been me. I would never turn him down. It was somebody in the office.
His father was taken to Sachsenhausen and used as a guinea pig for treating malaria or typhoid. No one knows exactly what they used on him. Luckily, he survived these experiments. Martin and his mother ended up in Ravensbrück. She was also subjected to medical experiments. Dr. Klauberg injected some corrosive substance into her uterus. It made her infertile. I met her after the war. She told me the only thing that helped her endure the terrible suffering was the thought of her son, Martin. She willed her body to survive because Martin would not have survived without her.
We were under pressure from the Germans. Interior Minister Mach and Prime Minister Tuka are responsible for all these horrible things that you blame me for.
Didn't you say Tiso and Tuka walk hand in glove?
It was a convenient thing to say at the time.
I refuse to think ill of anyone. If someone has done something wrong or believes he's done something wrong, it must have been for a good reason. And it makes no difference whether I know them or not. People are not all bad, except that some can't cope with the burden of tragedy and responsibility that life has thrust upon them.
You can't even imagine the kinds of things I had to deal with day in and day out.
Martin's mother promised him that baby Jesus would bring him the most wonderful gift from Mr. President. She also believed that you would help him.
Never knew that Lutheran priests could be so histrionic.
Lights down. Lights up.
To begin with, they would burn the bodies in a huge, deep pit. Smoke would rise from it all the time. Sizzling steam, flames, the smell of burnt flesh mixed with the smell of burning alcohol, fat, benzoil. Later they filled in the pit, trampled it down, and planted it with grass. And that was after they built a crematoria where human bodies could be incinerated in a much more hygienic way. The secret resistance cell in the camp. They picked me to escape and bear witness to the workings of Auschwitz, the darkest circle of the world. I agreed. I just said that I needed a companion because the task was too much for a single person. There had to be two of us. We picked Jozef. He was roughly my age and relatively fit, so was I. We needed to be fit. We knew that the escape would be arduous. Jozef, yes. But he was rather unnerved. He kept saying that even someone in the camp would pay the price. Whenever someone escaped, the SS would torture and murder those who stayed behind, especially those who knew the escapee well. And if you're scared, you give everything away, every detail. Joseph was scared. He was scared for himself and for others. He said he couldn't do it anymore. A few days before our escape, he ran at the electrified fence. He literally glued to it by the electric current. He remained there like some black cross, turned to ashes. Rudo was picked in his place. He was quite a bit younger and a bit of a temper. He also came from Slovakia, which was a big plus because that's where we were headed, here to Slovakia. Rudo said yes.
Rudo Verba. It's not a very Jewish name.
Walter Rosenberg, prisoner number 44070. Number 29152.
What are you telling me this for?
I have you thank for it. Birkenau consisted of two main areas, an inner camp that was guarded by a ring of watchtowers, and as well as an electrified fence. Now, the outer camp was 2 kilometers wide. Between the inner and outer camps, there were factories and workshops. That was also where wood for constructing new barracks was kept. The camp was bursting at the seams, and the transports kept coming, and the new barracks were needed for prisoners who were not murdered immediately upon arrival.
Well, it just goes to show you that the Germans made sure the prisoners had a roof over their head.
That was the one thing those barracks had. So you're quite right there. That was the only thing in respect in which they resembled proper dwellings for humans.
What more do you want? Everything costs money.
Slovakia paid 500 Reichsmarks for every Jew deported.
Other countries were not as generous as we were.
Oh, yes, all thanks to you. Thanks to you, Slovakia was so generous towards Hitler.
Finally, something we can agree on.
We hid in one of the work piles in the outer camp. We waited for 3 days for the search to be called off. It was a night in April. 100 kilometers and 10 days lay ahead of us before we had reached the border of the Slovak state.
Really? Well, maybe you're making all this up. Someone has sent you to entrap me, to break me, but I will not be broken, not so easily.
Lights down. Lights up.
One day, General Jozef Tiso came to see me. I used to regard him as an intelligent and a decent man. I remember he once told me how he went to see you in February 1942, along with Defense Minister Kaplos. They had brought you a report on the killing of Jews in Ukraine.
Do you have any idea how many reports I get a day?
So many reports of mass murder? Well, in that case, I can understand why you can't remember.
Spare me your sarcasm. In those days, all kinds of people talked about all kinds of things, including mass murder.
Ironically, it was General Tiso who later tried to prove that I was helping the Jews.
He was only doing his duty.
Saving a human life is more important than doing one's duty.
You're being histrionic again.
I was arrested. I wrote you a letter from detention to help you understand why I was issuing baptism certificates to Jewish people. I explained that I could not refuse them. As a human being, as a priest, after 3 weeks, I was released on health grounds.
You see? You came to no harm. In Germany, you would have gotten the death penalty. By the way, you have no idea how fervently I wish that the Lord granted me a chance to write my own memoirs. Our people and the world must see what difficult circumstances we had to live by and overcome.
I would like to believe that you meant no harm, that you just held office in difficult, dark times. I would like to believe you. But let's face it. You didn't grant all that many exemptions, 922 in total, and you received over 20,000 requests. You even had an official ransom list, the highest highest price was 20,000 crowns, and for each person you granted an exemption, another was deported, another Jew. What kind of exemption is that?
Lights down. Lights up.
You're in a prison cell and there's a radio here? Do you remember my letter?
I don't know who you are.
I'm not important. I worked at the theater, but I was never an important person there. I sang in the choir. But once I was given a chance. Cho-Cho-san, Madame Butterfly. I couldn't believe it. Am I really going to play that role, me, an ordinary member of the choir?
Choir members are important too.
My uncle had a radio like this. But after the Jewish Codex came into force, he had to hand it in. Jews were not allowed to have radios. He wrote him a letter asking for an exemption. He promised he'd listen only to music, nothing else.
What, I'm supposed to deal with radios now? This is a mockery of my office.
You may be pleased to hear they no longer need a radio. My aunt was deported to Auschwitz, and Uncle Tibor perished in Sobibor. That's me singing. Yes, that's me. It took me a long time to learn this aria. The repetiteur at the theater taught me. I was a mere choir member, but she convinced the director to let me sing Cho-Cho-san. She believed that I would be up to it. She encouraged me and said I had a fantastic voice. I just needed to perfect my technique a little, but she would help me with it. She found time for me every day, every single day. That butterfly. Wonderful opera. Theater. My life. There was a reason I didn't move to Zilina to be with Marcel. And then we were told to play Hey Slovaks before each performance. Hey Slovaks before Puccini. The repetiteur was so furious she was left gasping for air. She said it was barbarous to sing this crude song in the National Theater. Thunder and hell, you rage against us in vain.
I see nothing wrong with that. Quite the contrary.
Well, she did. You've got to admit, what sort of lyrics are those? But then, she also caved in, and the whole choir rehearsed this song.
The anthem symbolizes our victory. It fosters national pride.
We didn't want to argue, we conformed, but it was no use. Before we knew it, Madame Butterfly was banned altogether. Apparently, what's a faraway country such as Japan got to do with us? And why should we, Slovaks, care about the problems of the protagonist who ends up committing suicide? That runs counter to our national and Christian values. We have to concentrate on our national and Christian values.
Suicide is absolutely undesirable and impermissible.
But sending people to the gas chambers is desirable and permissible. Un bel dì, vedremo levarsi, un fil di fumo sull'estremo confine del mare.
One fine day, we will see arising a strand of smoke over the far horizon on the sea.
I feared that an opportunity like that may never come again, and it never did. I was fired from the theater because they labeled me a Jew.
You really a Jew? You don't look like a Jew.
I barely knew what that meant. My family didn't observe Jewish customs, and we never went to the synagogue. My whole world collapsed. I even contemplated suicide, thinking that might be a way out, like Cho-Cho-san.
You see? That's what bad examples can do. So good job that we banned the opera.
Our repetiteur was also fired from the
of the solution to the Jewish question. I'm sorry, but the Jews are parasites.
We found ourselves at Auschwitz. I tried to survive camp without any memories, but that wasn't possible. In my head, I sang all the arias and all the songs I knew, but in vain. I even sang slash and chop till you drop.
You Jews are a disruptive force. Marxists and liberals.
A female guard made us draw a chalk circle on the ground. I need 10 volunteers. We'll play a game.
11 women volunteered to stand in a circle.
She immediately threw one out. I said 10, and 10 means 10.
They were not allowed to step outside the circle. After a while, the guard took off her cap and flung it out of the circle.
Bench! 2 women stepped outside the circle. As they approached her, one of them held the cap carefully to make sure it did not get creased. She handed it to the guard, and she shot both of them. They left the circle.
And then she shot all those who remained inside. They also disobeyed her order and didn't go fetch her cap.
I don't believe you. It's a pack of lies.
How I wish it weren't true. I managed to avoid the gas chamber on several occasions, but once I was among those selected. So was my sister. We had to wait until 700 women assembled. We were sitting in the mud, ready to die.
Fortunately, the trucks meant to take us to the gas chambers were needed on the front, so the transport was postponed.
At night, while we were waiting, I stood up. I don't know what seized me, but I suddenly went to a place that wasn't quite as muddy and started to sing Cho-Cho San's aria. And suddenly it felt, not just to me, but to my sister, as well as all the others waiting for the trucks to the gas chambers, that instead of Auschwitz, we were back in the normal world. One where women like Cho-Cho San mourn for their lost love.
Where blossoms are fragrant, and you can have a hot cup of tea.
Or a whole baked potato, or even fresh strawberries, or oranges.
And whenever you like, you can
Wash your hands. 2 weeks later, I died anyway, of typhoid.
Lights down. Lights up.
Rubina and I have been hiding in a woodpile for 3 days. We heard the heart-rending screams from the camp. I'm much more aware of it here in our hiding place than when it was part of my everyday routine. And the screams sweep to us loud and clear. Avenge us. Yes, yes, we shall avenge you. But is it possible to avenge those interminable processions into the gas chambers? How do you find a measure of revenge that would be just? Death or death? The death is merely a moment, oftentimes the most painless and the most eagerly anticipated one. A period, and the end of suffering. And how, in what way can you avenge that agonizing grief and unimaginable suffering? And in what way can you avenge? By living longer in order to commit protracted and horrible murders? No, you couldn't live like that. It is equally impossible to keep on living with the murders, so what are you going to do? You take revenge, of course, in one way or another, but you never bring back the millions who have perished. You won't be able to erase the pain or compensate them for it. The world will be a better place if people with a conscience would make their pain their own. How strange to seek happiness in revenge. In tiny scraps of happiness.
Who do you want to take revenge out on? Me? I just sat in a cart, driven by the devil. So drive on, devil, once you're on the ride.
I can't laugh and enjoy myself. I keep trying to explain to people went on in the camps, but there are still those who won't believe me. My responsibility was to bear witness. And that is what I am trying to do now. Your responsibility was to protect Slovak citizens.
We did not create the circumstances. They were beyond our control. It was our duty to serve our nation in all
We
circumstances.
saw extermination on an industrial scale. We have learned the cruel, maybe the cruelest secret. We have seen so much evil that those who haven't seen it don't even believe it, and will never believe that such a thing could have happened. But we know that it did. But even we don't know the most important thing. We don't know why. And we don't know how exactly it happened. How can we be sure that it won't happen again? We have seen the murders with our own eyes. Why did it happen?
I trained to become a priest, not a politician. And as a priest, I wanted to serve God and the church and the nation which brought me forth, and in whose midst I carried out my priestly vocation for God, the nation, with the people, and for the people. That was not just a mere slogan acquired in later years, repeated and internalized. It was a universally valid principle. And the only way to achieve the highest goal, God's glory, followed by the well-being of the nation.
Well-being of the nation from which you excluded the Jews, the Roma, and the homosexuals.
I was responsible for building a state. An independent Slovakia. It was the nation that wanted it this way. And I haven't disappointed them. It is the responsibility of the nation, the Slovaks, that an independent Slovakia ever came into being.
You sacrificed thousands of Slovak citizens.
You chose to write a report! And as a result, several of your prisoners were executed. And yet, your report was not of interest to anyone.
The Talmud says that if you save one life, you save the whole world. Perhaps Rudo and I did save dozens or even hundreds of people. Thanks to our report, the mass transports from Hungary came to a halt.
No. No, they didn't. Nor did Horthy stop them because of you. He did so only because the Americans were bombing his railways. He thought that was on account of the deportations.
We bore witness to what went on there.
Witold Pilecki had already done that in 1943. He wrote a letter to London. No one believed
For
him.
one day, they will believe us. If it weren't for our report, perhaps you and others like you might convince thousands of people that the camps didn't exist.
I am both a victim and a victor. I feel that I'm a martyr of the Slovak nation. My message to the Slovak people is this: stay united and in accord.
It was perfidious of Hitler to trick you. The Slovaks trust priests, and the priests trust me. Just look at that little priest supplying us with the Jews.
I accepted the lesser of the evils, but to have one's own state, it's not evil. If it hadn't been for the pressure from Hitler, the Slovak parliament would never have voted for Slovakia's independence. I had to accept the other conditions that Hitler imposed, such as a solution to the Jewish problem. So yes, I did know. I knew everything. You're right. I read some of the letters that came to my office. I also read your report. And I marked it ad acta in my own hand. What else was I to do? Had I defied Hitler, he would have destroyed all of Slovakia. Believe you me, so there was nothing else for me to do but pretend that I knew nothing. That I was unaware of the mass murders. After all, politics is the art of the possible. So I did nothing wrong. I just sat in a cart, driven by the devil. Drive on, devil! Once you've gone for that ride.
Is mass murder part of the art of the possible?
Well, you're a victim. It's easier for you than me. You've been on the side of the truth from the beginning. But I'm the one who created the whole situation. I adopted every demand from Hitler. I lacked the courage to do anything.
You didn't even try, and you were quite comfortable.
I didn't mean hell to anyone.
You have sacrificed the Jews!
I made a mistake! We made a mistake. And now, I'm going to pay for it. So be it. I will accept my punishment.
Why didn't you make a public statement of remorse? At your trial, when the shocking images from the concentration camps were shown, that you didn't bat an eyelid. Mock at a nervous breakdown.
Had I admitted that I was wrong, I would have devalued everything that went on for these 7 years.
You have shown that you were a human being.
But what about the others? Those who had blind faith in me and still have blind faith in me?
They would understand that you too can err.
This way. This way I can go to my execution holding my head up high. As a martyr who gave his life for his convictions and ideals.
And if you could turn the clock back.
I would do everything the same way. I've always done everything that was in my power to oppose evil and yield to it only when my nation was under threat from an even greater evil. Now, in these final moments of my life, I have already become a victim. No. A martyr. My death will only validate my ideas, and they will remain forever linked with my name and my sacrifice. And for that reason, it will not be difficult for me to die. I have come to terms with what lies ahead.
Lights down. Alfred Wetzler and Rudolf Virgo are hiding under a pile of wood for the construction of the new barracks. Distant sounds from the camp are slowly receding. It is night.
We've been here for exactly 79 hours without moving.
It's unbearable.
Oh, we'll get worse.
My whole body is going numb.
We can go now. They won't be looking for us anymore.
Let's go.
What if the search hasn't been called off?
It's been 3 days.
I can't hear the dogs anymore.
I just hope it won't occur to anyone that we might still be out here.
I still smell the gasoline and tobacco.
I didn't really believe it would put the beasts off our scent.
Why haven't the Allies bombed this place to smithereens yet?
They know the people are still here.
They would liberate us. A quick death is better than a living death. and others will be saved.
If we get out of here, everything will change.
Oh, can you imagine? I had a dream with Tiso in it. You were Tiso, and I spoke to you before your execution.
Tiso's to be executed? All that gasoline must have corroded your brain. We have to get a move on. Dawn's going to break in an hour.
Well, we're friends.
Yes. Will anyone believe us?
I don't know. But we have to try.
Lights down.
Often I ask questions, but because we started with a lecture and it's a little bit of a different format, I'm just going to see if anybody has a couple questions for Alec or Madeline. And we have a mic that can come around to you. I also have some questions, but I might let people ask to begin with. Anyone have any questions to start with?
Actually, I'd like to ask a question of Madeline.
Yeah.
So, I would like to learn more about how Tiso made this deal with Hitler that Slovakia would become independent rather than being conquered along with the Czech part of the country.
Well, that's actually a very good question, and I'll try to be as brief as I can about it. I believe that Hitler wanted to take over Europe in stages. And first he started with the Sudetenland, with the Munich Agreement in 1938, and then he decided that there was some regional calculus going on because there were agreements with Hungary taking place at the same time. There are a lot of geopolitical reasons for what was going on. He really was eyeing the industry in the Czech lands, and by putting Slovakia off to the side for a little while he went after the resources in the Czech lands and greater amounts of territory in the Sudetenland, it was just a question of time before something was going to happen in Slovakia. It was precipitated by the Slovak National Uprising in 1944, which triggered a Nazi invasion in the country there, but the documents that were found in the German ambassador's office in Slovakia indicated that the Nazis had always planned to absorb Slovakia. They were going to take out the nationalists first and send them east, where they would be worked to death, and eventually anyone who was apolitical and fit the profile of a Slav. Because Hitler did not like Slavs. In fact, that was one of the reasons why Mein Kampf was not distributed in Slovakia, because he speaks so badly of Slavs, and Slovaks are Slavs. So that's a kind of a long and winding answer, but it was part of a calculus that was designed to take over the region in stages. And Hitler had talked about dismembering Czechoslovakia as early as 1937 with the Hungarians.
I have a quick question too before we. Your book came out how many years ago originally?
6.
6 years ago originally, and so what has the reaction in Slovakia been? Just to the book and to Tiso in retrospect.
Well, it's interesting because when I first started doing my research, I thought it was just for myself. I didn't think that anybody would really be interested in it, and I thought that everybody in Slovakia already knew about the letters that were written to Tiso, and I really was very surprised. There was so much interest in the letters and the contents of the letters that people asked me to start talking about them in public even before the book even before I was finished writing the book. I've been really gratified by the response, and I think that as more and more people learn about the lack of compassion that supplicants received, and that it does somewhat modify the debate in Slovakia about, really, when it comes at the end of the day, the question is how much control did Slovakia have over itself, and what responsibility it had for the liquidation of European Jews, and how much control did the Germans have. And as you can see from the play, there must have been a lot of debates going on around that topic. So I think there's a real fascination with the topic. My sense was that people really wanted to learn more and learn more about the period and learn more about these ordinary people who wrote to Tiso. And so I've been really gratified by the response, and I do think it moves the needle a little bit when looking at Tiso's responsibility for what happened.
How is Tiso viewed in Slovakia?
Sorry. Tiso is a very controversial subject. There are people who believe that he is a martyr who saved Jews thanks to his ability to grant exemptions. And as I said earlier, there are people who inflate the numbers. And there are other people who see Hitler as a murderer who sent his own citizens away, his Jewish citizens away to their deaths. And there's it's almost like seeing two parallel highways. The parts of the country that believe one argument and the other parts of the country that believe the other argument have very little common ground for talking about this time period. And I think also it gets to the question of the degree to which Slovaks are willing to see the Holocaust not only as a Jewish tragedy, but as a societal tragedy for the entire country. I think it's going to take some more time.
So as I hear the thrumming of the music, I'm going to see if there is a couple questions from the audience before we call it an evening. There are a couple hands over here.
As an aside,
There's a
here.
mic coming.
Okay. As an aside, my mother's parents and her 9-year-old brother were on one of the first transports out of Slovakia, but I'm curious because I've heard that Tiso was not aware that the Jews who were being transported were going to be exterminated. He thought they were going to work camps, and that he tried to stop the transports at one time. So I'm just wondering, is that fantasy, is that fiction, or is that true?
No, I don't believe that's the case. After the Jewish Codex was issued, which was referred to in the play, about a week after that, Tiso took his one and only business trip to Zhytomyr in Ukraine. And because Germany and Slovakia had signed a treaty of protection, Slovakia supplied Germany with soldiers. And there was a Slovak garrison in Zhytomyr, and they had witnessed atrocities. And now new reports are coming out that they may have also participated in atrocities, but that requires a little more research. And I've started looking at information submitted by military chaplains as to what they saw when they were there. And it's just going to take some more time for me to research the question. But he was certainly informed of what was going on in Operation Barbarossa, where Jews were being shot into pits. This was before the gas chambers came about. So no, no. He was aware, and Chatlosh, as was mentioned in the play, had informed had informed Tiso no later than February 1942, which was a month before the deportations, that nothing good was going to be waiting for the Jews there. When Slovakia deported its Jewish population, the negotiations stated that the Nazis insisted that that Jews give up their Slovak citizenship and that they turn over all of their property to the state. And on their way out of the transit camps, Jews were forced to sign documents to that effect. And at a certain point, people were becoming aware of atrocities because Slovak soldiers were writing home and saying what they had seen and what they had witnessed. And the pretense of innocence was going away over time. And I think that it's going to take a little bit more research to flesh out all of that information, but the knowledge was there. And when some Slovaks said, we'd like to inspect these camps where Jews are being taken, because they really had started hearing more and more, the Germans, Adolf Eichmann said, that's not going to be possible. If you want information about how the Jews are living under our control, read Grenzbote, which was a German language daily. And he said, besides, they're not your citizens anymore. They signed away their citizenship. So why would we make it possible for you to look at what's going on there?
What country oversaw Tio's trial, and what year was he executed?
He was indeed executed. I very often get asked the question whether the Vatican tried to step in to help him, and the Vatican declined to help him. So he was executed in 1948. The Czechoslovak government. Yes, under communist government. And there's a very interesting book by two of the judges. They were communist judges, and this information, which is not confirmed, that whether Tiso saw the protocol written by Verban Wetzler or not, it is in that book.
I think we're just going to do one last a question in the back.
Did I understand it correctly that regarding the deportation, was it the Jewish people themselves that had to pay Germany for their own deportation, or was it the Slovak government that paid Germany a sum of money? What was this, payment? And by who made the payment, and what was the amount of it? And
well, there are two answers to that. They paid 500 German Reichsmarks. It was the Slovak government that paid. I've seen letters from the Minister of Finance from time to time asking for totals so that they could make the payment. But in a way, Jews paid indirectly for their own deportations because all of their property was liquidated, their businesses were liquidated, and the money was taken out of people's bank accounts, and their bank accounts were confiscated, and their bank deposit box were confiscated. So ultimately, you could say that they paid for their own deportations indirectly, but it was a government-to-government agreement. There were other countries that had agreements to pay Germany. I think Croatia paid 50 Reichsmarks, but they preferred to kill Jews inside the country, so there were not large payments. When Germany told the Bulgarians that they would have to pay 500 Reichsmarks, the Bulgarians said no, that they just simply refused to do it.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming and sharing all this information. Thank you, Alec, and all the actors for your wonderful performance. And thank you all for coming. So hope to see you again soon. Feel free to go upstairs and enjoy some punk rock.